Peace. One thing I like about athleticism, you know, versus music, or I'll say the sports industry, because there's distinctions between, you know, someone who's has extreme athletic ability or extreme musical gifts versus the sports industry and the music industry. There's a difference. But one thing I respect about sports is you have to be really good to be successful. Like in order to make it to the NFL or the NBA or a professional hockey team or, you know, especially tennis, like you have to have extraordinary athletic ability. Whereas in the music industry, you can get a significant amount of recognition and success without having extraordinary ability. And when I was thinking about rap music, I would say one of my first loves as far as music is hip hop. I got introduced to hip hop a little bit later on. It wasn't until high school that I fell in love with hip hop. And you know, my first music that I was introduced to was pure jazz, Coltrane, Davis, when I was little. And then it was pop, you know, by elementary school, middle school, it was pop, and rock, you know, Alanis Morissette, Fiona Apple, was really like what I was listening to a lot back then. Classic rock, also Doobie Brothers, Steely Dan, and, you know, Bob Marley. And then it was more like high school when I got introduced to hip hop and fell in love with hip hop. And Tribe Called Quest was one of the first groups that I started listening to because I had older siblings. And, you know, we would listen to like Tribe Called Quest. We would listen to like Fu-Schnickums, Brand Nubian, Arrested Development. I'm trying to think of all the people that my siblings used to listen to, and that's how I started getting introduced to hip hop. Kwame, Slick Rick, MC Hammer, of course. Who else back then? Oh my gosh. So that's when I first started falling in love with hip hop. But then when I started listening to my own, it was Cash Money, it was Rough Riders, it was Eve, it was Remy Ma, it was 50. You know, early on I was a big 50 fan. It was a time of like the whole Murder Inc. G-Unit time. I really loved G-Unit. You know, so that was like DMX, of course, Jay-Z, of course. You know, that's like what I gravitated towards, Pac. And so, you know, Lil' Kim, I can't forget Lil' Kim, Foxy Brown was like my idol. I remember just playing I Taste Just Like Candy over and over again, love Foxy. But I was thinking about, you know, all the artists that I named have pure talent, and but there were a lot of songs, you know, and I think like we were more like hip hop snobs, being from the East Coast, where we were like, when I first got introduced to like Southern rap or like West Coast rap, it was just like, what? You know, it just didn't like sound the same to me. And I say the first group from the South that I respected, of course, was Outkast. And then later on, I got introduced to Goody Mob, and I was like, okay, there's a lot of good, like, and no dig at the South, but I was like, okay, there's some like real extraordinary talent that's coming from the South as far as on the hip hop end. But we always looked at it like, yeah, like not only is New York the mecca of hip hop, but it also has the best, you know, hip hop artists. We kind of looked at like the music that was coming from the South at the time, and it's like, we put it in the category of like almost like Hammer music, you know, like Whoop There It Is and whatnot. Like that was like MC Hammer music. And over time, and I know that there's always going to be a conflict, like East Coast, West Coast hip hop, Midwest hip hop, the South. I'm biased because I'm from the East Coast. I always say that New York hip hop is always the best. Like, rappers that come from the East Coast are usually lyrically more just committed to like content and lyricism, and like, you know, you have a couple that will fall through the cracks, but overall, like we don't really like that stuff like that came out of the Midwest, you know what I mean, with the big white t-shirts, that we weren't really about that type of music, you know, like Laffy Taffy and whatnot. But then again, you know, there's room for it all. And that's the thing about it. There's room for it all. There's room for the playful music. There's room for the silly music. There's room for the Soulja Boys, who I'm a fan of. And then there's room for, of course, like KRS-One. You know what I'm saying? There's not like a one-size-fits-all approach to hip-hop. But I was going somewhere with this point. So it's like the silent rules of the game is that there's like an age cap. And culturally, it's like, you know, at a certain point, you should be giving up on your music ambitions. And I made the point a few weeks back that I don't feel like this is something that is organically us. If you think about when you go to certain parts of the continent of Africa, you know, it's so, grandparents are so revered that children usually just listen and they don't even talk around them. In some cultures, the children bow to their grandmother. You know, it's like when you get, there's such respect of when you become a certain age, because the idea is that you have a certain amount of wisdom to give. And in this culture of ageism, I don't think it's a coincidence that the industry, the music industry specifically, picks a certain age group. I reflect back on when I was young. I didn't know much, you know. I mean, I'm blessed that I had, you know, parents with a good head on their shoulders. But when you're young, you can kind of be tricked into a lot of things because you haven't had the life experience to really give you that wisdom. And so if I'm a music industry, you know, head, and I say, look, you know, I want you to do all of these things, you know, that are going to leave a tremendous karmic debt and a tremendous debt on your soul, it's going to be a little bit easier to pull you in if you don't have any children, if you're not thinking about, you know, if you're not even wise enough to think about the imprint and the impact of what you say having an impact on people. And so when I say that the rules of the game are not created by us, you know, I'm watching some of these like big heads like Nas, Jay-Z are like some of the biggest, you know, hip hop stars. I'm watching them, and you know, some of them are like giving up their liquor contracts. You know, some of them are selling their share of the liquor companies because they're now starting to, they have that OG perspective, and they're now starting to think about like, damn, you know, what am I contributing towards? You know what I'm saying? Like in my foundation as a youth, I could chalk it up to, okay, well, you know, they could chalk it up to like I sold drugs because I was a kid. You know, I didn't know better. But when you get a certain age, you're that OG status, you start thinking like, man, you know, what did my sale of those drugs do to that family, do to that mom, do to that, you know? So when you get wise, you start beginning to think differently about the decisions that you make and the karmic imprint that it's gonna leave on the world. And, you know, I was thinking like, as an artist, I always have really just wanted to create. Like that's always been my goal, you know? And I learned in one of my classes that you even put out some of the stuff that's not even good, you know? It's just a matter of like creating. Not everything is gonna be your best work. Some of the stuff is gonna be like, you know, laughable, but you still put it out. And my ambition was never to be like, it was never to really be in the industry. I never had like fame. The idea of fame is just not really something that I feel like would even be fitting of me with my personality. I like my privacy. I like my peace a lot. Even when I go out, you know, side and like, some dudes try to holler at me, I'm still kind of like, you know, it depends on the day, but like I'm still a little taken aback. Like, you know, can I just go get my groceries? Can I just put my music on and just be in my own zone? You know, I don't really like for my peace to be disturbed like that. And the idea of just somebody inserting themselves in your life and prying into your privacy, it's such a nuisance. My pursuit was never fame. My pursuit was quality music. That was always my ambition. And when I talk about the music industry, we've had so many examples of people who were great, you know, who have gotten swallowed up by this industry. I mean, Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, Prince, you know, so many like legendary people that the industry has just had a parasitic relationship with. And in wisdom, you hope that the greats that have come before you have left somewhat of a blueprint so you don't have to make the same mistakes. That's ideal. You don't necessarily want to walk in someone's footprints. Like, I think that they, like, if their legacy meant anything besides the trail of great music that they left, it was also a lesson to us artists of the industry. I feel like every artist should adhere to kind of what happened. And, you know, deep down, I don't think that a lot of these people are very happy with the fact that they are so creative, but they still have to be so, so held in captivity because of this industry. They can't speak out about this. They can't talk out about this. They're being told what to prioritize. They're being told what to say. They're being told like children, like slaves. And they feel very trapped. Many of them, if they could do it again, they wouldn't have signed those contracts. Many of them are really like feeling like they are in hell based off of those contracts. They don't really want to be inside of the industry. But they can't say that because part of their commitment is to continue to recruit people. So the minute that they start talking about how much they hate the industry, the less people would want to be a part of it. And that is part of what they have to do. They have to keep recruiting souls. And so for me, I feel as if, and I'm not going to say if I was, because I am, you know, as an artist with a voice, as a co-creator, I have the power to help shape the way that I want to see the world, specifically the way that I want to see the industry. And I think that it is imperative that the OGs keep creating music. I think that it's imperative that the OGs don't stop and say, I'm going to retire from the game because I'm a certain age or whatever, because that wisdom is really why you're here. Our culture is we are orators. That is our culture. We are messengers. We pass down stories. That is our legacy. And so like I said at the beginning of this video, the OGs in our culture, the children are quiet. They're seen and not heard to some degree, which I don't entirely believe in, but follow me on this point. In order for the youth to not be led astray, the OGs need to take their power and their voice by the bullhorns. Because you've been through the trenches, not exclusively for your own experience, but to teach these lessons and to be wise to the youth. And it's a blessing for you guys to be able to pass the baton, right? To take people under their wings. I'm going to finish with this last point. A lot of people have said, you know, the youth is this way, the youth is that way, but the youth has remarked, like, who taught us? Thug life, the hate you show little infants fucks everybody. Thug life, right? So part of the issue that you see with the youth gone astray was the fact that you didn't step up and take the youth under your wings and be the mentor to the youth and teach the youth. Until next time, y'all. Peace.